Okay. So I think we are ready now.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, it's Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. I'm muted.
If you can mute yourself, that would be great.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So we've got about a minute, so I'm just going to wait if there's, in case anyone else is joining us. So what I'd like you to do is just come and sit while we wait. So I think I'm in shot. So I'd like you to come and sit in a comfortable seated posture. So maybe Sukhasana. I can't do the usual asking of how you all are today and about injuries, because obviously I'm streaming this live and we're not doing it in an interactive form. So obviously if you have any injuries, you know, you're going to have to look after those for yourself. So if there's anything that just doesn't feel right, just back off. Listen to your breath. As long as you're breathing freely, then you know everything will be okay. The breath will normally indicate when any force is coming into play. So just bringing yourself, we're going to start now because it's 11 o'clock, so hopefully we're all here. So we're in our comfortable seated posture, whether or not that's a cross-legged posture or a kneeling posture. I can hear someone else has just joined, so if
Hello.
Hello.
It's Terry, but I can't see. Can you see me?
I can't see you, but can you see me?
I can see you. Are you meant to be able to see me?
I'm not going to be able to see anyone, so
That's fine.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. I just didn't know. It's been a nightmare trying to work out what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, don't worry. So what you do is mute your phone or your computer if you can.
Mute it so that you can't hear us.
I can't hear you, and then you can just hear me.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Okay, sounds like you're muted there, so we'll start. So we're coming into a comfortable seated posture to start, and it may be cross-legged, it might be kneeling. If of course you need support sitting, if you have a yoga block or a folded blanket, a folded towel, if you need to sit on some support, or you know, even grab a hardback book or something. So these are all things that we can use. So we're just going to come and sit. We're going to rest our hands in our lap, and we're going to close our eyes, and we're going to settle into the breath. So this is probably something I'm guessing that we all need at the moment, to settle into the breath. So even if you're not someone who is particularly drawn by the news, you know, we can't really avoid what's going on at the moment. So, you know, certainly we're all being affected by it in some way. So to come back to the breath, to come back to the heart center is going to be really useful for us. So you may place a hand on your heart. And if you're comfortable to do so, close your eyes and just settle into your breath. So we're not doing anything specific with the breath. We're just allowing the breath to flow with ease. And as the breath flows with ease, and it might take a few breaths before that ease comes in. So if you need to, it's fine to take a deeper or an extended breath to reset the breath. And then hopefully we can find a natural rhythm. So just following the breath in and out of the body without making the breath behave in any particular way. What we want to feel is a softening around ourselves as the container of the breath. So allow your facial muscles to relax, your shoulders to relax. So I'm sure that there's, you know, one or two people who may be getting a little risen up, a little tense in the shoulders over current events. I can certainly feel that I have more tension in my shoulders than usual. So, you know, it's important to allow this area of the body to relax. And we're going to come into helping that area to soften in a while. Okay. Now we've settled our breath. We're going to open your eyes so you can see. So we're going to take our hands. So you can use your 3 fingers. I'll come a little closer to the screen to show you. And we're going to just take our hands. So it's towards the base of the neck here. And it's, if you slide your hands down your neck until you get to the sort of fleshy part. So we're getting into that upper trapezius muscle area. So whilst we're sitting down, we're going to just give a little massage into that area. So just a little pressure. You may alternate the fingers. So you're pressing down through the fingers and working the fingers across that area. And you can move it into towards the top of the shoulders if that helps. And it's interesting to observe how much tension may be present there, maybe not. But I can certainly feel that there's a little more tenderness than usual there for me. So, you know, this is useful. Now, we don't want to overly press too hard. We don't need to. We're just feeling into it. It's like we're just letting our fingers spring off that area. So we can just feel into that gentle massaging. And then we're going to take our hands and we're going to allow our hands to slide up using the fingers to slide up the back of the neck, the back of the head. So again, I'm going to come in closer to you if this is helpful. So we slide up and come all the way up towards the top of the head. Now, when we're here up at the top of the head, what we're going to do is we're just going to press the fingers again into the top of the head and maybe doing a little circling action. So you keep your fingers in contact with the scalp there, and then you just allow this little movement, you know, a little bit like that sort of movement that maybe as a child you used to do. Maybe you didn't when we used to pretend that we were wearing a wig. So you can just allow your scalp to move and find the rhythm of your breath whilst you do this. So the breath is flowing. Okay, now from here, we're going to slide the fingers down lightly, so you don't have to press too hard, but you can feel that sensitive contact. And then we're going to bring our fingers into the hairline there, so at the center of the head. And then we're going to slide the index finger and middle finger across the hairline and come down into the temples. So when you find that little indent where you can just feel top of the jawbone there, you can just massage into the temples. That's it. So just a little circling action. And again, let this action move with your breath. So allow your breath to fully support this movement. You may be moving quite slowly with the hands, or it may be a little quicker. You don't have to press too hard. We're just feeling a little massaging action there. And then we're going to slide the hands a little further down the face. So we're coming into the hinge of the jaw. And again, we're going to go with a little circling action here. So this is another common area of tension in times of stress. So we're just going to bring a little massaging. And you know what, I can't quite see how I'm looking here because the image of me is very small on my phone, but you know, maybe I'm looking a little bit spaced out here because I'm just allowing my facial muscles to relax. So, you know, try to let everything go. And the joy about doing an online yoga class, you don't have to worry about what you look like and that you may have a slightly gormless expression on your face as you release your facial muscles, because no one can see you. So you can just enjoy that, being free to just fully relax. That's it, breathing. Now, after that little massage into the hinge of the jaw, we're going to slide our fingers down and we're going to come down. So you find your collarbone and then just pop underneath the collarbone and then a little pressing into this area here. And take some spacious breaths while you do this, so you can walk the fingers across, back and forth, and as you feel the breath coming in and out, you can feel the changing pressure as we have a little movement there through the chest. And you can play with it. You might again move a little circling action or a little pressing action. That's it. Perfect. Okay, and then you may release your arms, and again, in your comfortable seated posture, whatever that might be, whether it's cross-legged or kneeling, just come to rest. So there's a little orientation via the breath, via our attention, back into our center. So this is important to find the center because it's, you know, it's easily lost in day-to-day life, and particularly once we become busy and, or, you know, consumed with, you know, the current events of our life, not just what's happening now, but, you know, we always have things that consume us. And if we reflect back on those things that consume us or that have consumed us, you know, one of the things that we'll notice is there've been many things that have consumed our attention over our life, over the years. And what they all have in common is that they come and they go. So when we're in the midst of whatever those chitta vrittis might be, these fluctuations of the heart mind, you know, they can feel very permanent, they can feel very all-consuming. So what we do is we go beneath, we look to come back to the center, and we use the breath for this. Okay. So allowing your eyes to open if they're closed. Taking another slower, deeper, steadier breath. And letting that exhalation release naturally and release fully. So, you know, don't start inhaling before that exhalation has completed itself. Okay, well done. Okay, so we're going to come onto our hands and knees from here. So come out of your seated posture. Might be that some of you are needing to move the legs a little after being cross-legged or kneeling. So if you need to, you can extend your legs out like so. So you can just reach back through the legs, have a little wiggle, have a little wiggle, have a little shake, whatever you need to do here. And then again, you know, our breath, we want to use our breath as our anchor point through the practice. So it's an anchor point in that it anchors us into the center. It's not that it's sort of taking us to any fixed place, but it's a way that we can stay deeply connected in our center. So, you know, it's fluid, it comes and goes, but it's always there. So it's a useful tool to, you know, train ourselves that when we move into the breath, when we really give our attention to the breath, it is one of our means of going in deep into ourselves. So it's beneath the surface of all the thoughts, all the layers of, you know, identity that we have, you know, our own personality, our own character, our roles. And we just go beneath into that sense of being. Now here on our hands and knees, you know, I've naturally been swaying. I haven't instructed you to do that, but you know, you might find that naturally the body wants to move. So, you know, feel into that. Feel into perhaps a little sway of the hips, a little movement of the shoulders, even a little movement through the spine. So cat-cow, you know, some of you are very familiar with this posture, or these postures where we move from arching and rounding the back. You can move into that, but you know, don't make it mechanical. So allow a little movement to come in as feels appropriate. So it may be a very subtle movement like I'm doing now, or it might be bigger movements. Perhaps you may circle your hips around towards your feet and back again. You may dip your elbows and, you know, drop a shoulder and feel the stretch through the sides of the body. So just play into a little movement here, back and forth, a little wiggle, whatever you need, reaching up into the back, into the belly, into the heart, letting the head and neck move with you as, again, you feel the need to. So try not to exclude any part of your body from the experience, and you know, not particularly overload another part of the body. So we're sort of looking for an even, settled awareness throughout the whole body. Okay, now we are going to move it up into a downward facing dog. So you're going to place your hands shoulder width apart. Look at your hands, so your middle fingers are pointing forwards, and you spread your fingers. So when we spread our fingers, we don't want to spread them out so they are, you know, overly stretching like this, but it's more a soft, relaxed space between the fingers. So our hands are forwards, the wrists being a little further forwards than the shoulders. So you take out a little bit of the crease of the wrists, you open that space there, and then when you're ready, feet towards hip width apart, making sure your knees and feet are in line with your hands. And then when you're ready, you're going to lift yourself up. So we may move a little first. So again, I'm just naturally, I didn't think about doing this, and I don't always do this as I come into downward facing dog, but my body naturally wants to move in this direction, a little back and forth movement. So I'm just going with it because, you know, I have a deep trust in Shakti, in the power of consciousness that, you know, isn't driven by our own mind leading us into, you know, what we think we should be doing, but it's driven by, you know, an intuitive tuning in. Okay, so when you're ready, maybe you're already up in downward facing dog, and of course you can calm down anytime you wish. We're going to move ourselves into this inverted V shape. So you can keep your heels lifted to start with. So if we attempt to take the heels down, what happens if we do that? Certainly if we do that too soon, but you know, there's never really any need to try to get the heels to the floor. But if we start to do that, it tends to steal the space from the lower back, so we end up rounding. So by lifting the heels, what we get here is a release through the hamstrings, through the back of the thighs, and that allows the pelvis to tilt, and then we can get a really good, clear movement from here. And then you can just play. You can move around a little. Maybe you might bend a knee, straighten a leg, sway the hips from side to side. So we've got all of these movements that we often employ in downward facing dog. We're not doing it out of habit, but again, it's that being led into exploration. So feel into it, breathe into it. And if you're unsure about where your sort of motivation comes from, or what is driving your movement, again, come back to your breath, because this is what will lead you into the movement of nature within your body. So feel into it, play into it. Okay, and then we're going to bring ourselves down. So you can bring your knees to the floor, take a breath or two here. Soften your forehead, release your jaw. And gather yourselves, and again, gather yourselves back into your center. That's the place for you to reside. Not just now, but always. Because from the center, we can see out to the periphery of everywhere. So there's a clearer perception when we are operating from our center rather than from the place of our habitual patterns or tendencies. So the breath is flowing. Mind is settling. Okay, we're going to come forwards again. So we're going to place our forearms on the floor. Our elbows are going to be beneath our shoulders, and our arms will be shoulder width apart. So we'll place our arms onto the floor. And just pause here. So again, it's like the preparation in downward facing dog, where we're on our hands and knees and we played a little, we moved around a little. I'm assuming you did this because obviously I can't see you. But as you move and play, again, you're using it as a means to just tune in beyond the, the conventional sort of structure of, I am a person doing yoga and this is what this yoga posture looks like and this is how I should perform it. We're moving into feeling it. We're moving into, making it an experience that, is really unique. It's really unique in that it's not driven by the idea of getting to a particular place or making a particular shape, but it's unique because it is, a unique expression of consciousness in this moment. And that's what it always is. That's what life always is. But a yoga practice is often a practice that allows us to see that more clearly. So on our forearms, on our knees, we're going to tuck our toes under and we're going to lift our bum up into the air. So again, in almost a downward facing dog position, sort of, it's a posture in modern postural yoga that is called dolphin pose. I'm not really sure how this represents a dolphin, this shape, but there we go. So we're here. we're breathing. Now, make sure you're not collapsing into it and that your head's not coming down to the floor. So you need to press into your forearms and feel that you are opening your armpits. Okay, and then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to allow our feet to walk back. So we're walking back towards a plank position. So we let the hips lower, we let the body come down more towards a straight line with the upper body and legs. And then we're going to slowly lower the legs down. And then as the thighs come down, as pelvis meets the floor, the feet can extend back. We're then going to press into our forearms, lift up the chest, deepen the shoulder blades into the back ribs. So shoulder blades are pushing forwards. And they're pulling down the back a little. But, you know, you're not trying to necessarily squeeze them in towards each other, but it's more of them tucking in firmly into the back of the body. And this will open your chest. And then find your breath. And then pressing into your hands, you may lift up a little higher perhaps. And then we're going to lower ourselves back down so the elbows will come back down to the floor. We're going to tuck the toes under. We're going to reverse that. So we're going to shift our weight forwards a little so we can press into the forearms and elbows, lift up the knees, walk the feet in so you come back up into that inverted V shape. Breathe. And then as long as your wrists are happy to do this, you can lift up your elbows and take yourself straight into a downward facing dog here. If not, you know, come down to your hands and knees and then press up into your downward facing dog. And then again, let's play into it. Let's move around, opening the armpits. Top of the thighs can draw back behind you. So this brings space and length to the lower back. That's it, breathe. So even though you're there over the airways, you know, I can still sense that, you know, occasionally there may be breath holding happening. So make sure you breathe. I can't see you, but I can sense you. So full breaths, free breaths. Okay, come down, sit back on your heels, rest your hands in your lap. And again, find your breath. So some of you, you know, you're used to doing this, but take support if you need to between buttocks and heels. You know, maybe you're practicing on a carpeted space as I am, and it might be more comfortable than it is on a regular floor that we have in a yoga studio. So give yourself support as you need to. Support beneath the ankles if that's needed. If you find that extension of the toes quite strong on the feet. I know Helen's joined us today. This is one of your nemesises, I think, here. So you always take that support. So do take support as you need it. And then again, we just come back. So maybe some of you have practiced online at home before, or you have a self-practice, so it might be familiar to you practicing at home. For some of you, perhaps may even be your first yoga practice at home. So even, you know, practicing in a different surroundings can be something that it challenges our samskaras, our habitual tendencies. So that's a good thing. But what it can do as well is that, you know, it might draw us into distraction. So particularly at home sometimes, you know, this is why people often tell me they like to come to a yoga class, because they're focused there. You don't have your own things around you in your yoga class, and it's not so easy to get up and just go and make yourself a cup of tea. Now, of course, you are free to do that now that you're at home, but let's see if we can hold the same focus that we would in a yoga studio. Let's, because this is our studio at this moment in time. Okay, well done. We're going to release from this, and we're going to bring ourselves up to standing. So come up in your own time. Don't rush up. If you have a tendency towards low blood pressure, take your time coming up, because we can get that drop when we've been down lower. And then come up, and maybe you need to shake out the ankles, shake out the feet, whatever you need to do here, then go ahead. Make yourself comfortable, basically. Release any holding, release any sensations that may get in the way of you coming back to your center, of coming back to the settled state. So we'll come into Tadasana now. As I'm sure you all know, we've got the two variations with the feet hip width apart or the feet together. We're going to go for hip width apart. So what we have with those two variations is normally the feet together sort of brings us nicely into the midline of the body. So it hones our attention very well. So, I'm really fond of that variation of Tadasana. But this variation too has its own benefits and what it does, because we are aligning our hips above our feet, is it brings stability. So let's drop into that. So stability is something that, maybe here is a thought. Maybe we've lived our life under what we can call an illusion of stability. Because we set things up so everything is as it should be, or as we want it to be, and as long as nothing comes in and rocks the boat, then everything is a-okay. So of course there's a benefit to finding stability, to creating stability, but where that stability may be, we can say misjudged, is that we believe it to be permanent. So one of the main teachings, that we can take from the traditions that have influenced yoga is this teaching of impermanence. So certainly, I'm adapting, I'm sure you're adapting to, the things that we think are set in our life. Like this morning, I should be at the Buddhist Center teaching you guys a yoga class, but here I am teaching you guys a yoga class in my bedroom. So, the only reason that, that was going to happen, or if that is, problematic, is that I think that, that's absolutely what's going to happen. I have that planned. And that's when we get a little disharmony in our body, when what we think is stable becomes unstable. So what we're doing here in Tadasana with our feet hip width apart is finding stability, but just resting in, the temporary nature of that. We may be doing a balancing pose next. So let's just settle into stability as it is now, with no attachment to it changing or it remaining. We're just bringing ourselves into now. So of course, in stability is not about setting things in stone. It's not about pinning things down. It's not about making things still. Real stability is our ability to adapt to movement, to adapt to change, to adapt to fluctuation. So as we find our stability here in Tadasana, we might move in it a little. We might perhaps circle through the hips, move from one foot to the other, even wiggle the toes, anything that, you know, helps you to start to find that, you know, underlying nature where, I can feel settled within my being, but I'm settled within my being that is constantly changing. I'm settled within my being that, you know, isn't fixed, isn't pinned down to any particular form, even though we think it is. You know, and if we think, you know, when we attach to that idea, or, you know, we don't even necessarily know that we attach to that idea, but, you know, you can just look at yourself in a photograph. Look at yourself later, perhaps, in a photograph from 5 years ago, and then see how impermanent things are, because you will look different. So even this form that feels very solid and unfixed, you know, and fixed, sorry, it's subject to change. So hopefully by now, perhaps you've settled more into an easeful state here. You're allowing your shoulders to soften. You're allowing the heart to lift, and the lift of the heart comes from, you know, deep within the body. It's not just a lift through the front of the chest, but it's a lift from deep in, the front, the back, the sides of the heart. We feel the rising from beneath. Okay. Well done. We're going to bring our feet together now to the other version of Tadasana, from which we're going to move into another posture. So we can feel that difference in those two variations. So just feel how it feels to bring the feet together now, that maybe there is a little bit more sense of gathering in. We established some stability with our feet apart, but recognize that that stability is subject to change. And then we bring the feet in and we start to hone ourselves more into the midline, into the center. Because, you know, ultimately our center is where we will find the most reliable stability. You may have your eyes open or closed. The breath is flowing. Okay, now I'd like you to, and I'm assuming that this comes as mirroring me, how it's reflected to you, the screen, but I'm not sure whether it flips it around. So hopefully I'll be mirroring you. You may bend your left leg. Okay, so you're shifting your weight into your right foot. So I apologize if I'm not mirroring you and it becomes confusing. You can swap it around if you wish. Okay, and then we're going to raise that leg up and we're going to take hold of the shin and we're going to place the foot to the somewhere along the inner seam of the leg. Those of you who are able to reach comfortably up towards the top of the thigh, you can bring your foot up high. You can go down lower. We don't really want to overly press weight against the inner knee. So, you know, anywhere, but without pushing out into the knee joint. And then when you found that place, and it's fine to have your toes on the floor as well to have a little bit of balance. When you found that place, you may bring your hands towards the heart. And again, let's settle. So balancing postures are very direct in their teaching. So, you know, whereas in the Tadasana, we could, you know, maybe drop into that stability and it could feel fairly permanent, that we can stay there, our 2 feet on the ground. When we're in a balancing pose, we are forced into constant adaptation. We're forced into, you know, constantly, you know, playing with what arises. So it's not about pinning it down, making it really still, but it's about allowing ourselves to feel into the natural movements that come into the body, to feel into the breath, to feel into those moments where we feel very steady and those moments when we feel less steady. Okay. We're going to release our hands and we're going to release the foot, release the leg. You may need to give yourselves a little bit of movement. So sometimes we can feel a little gripped on what was the standing leg around the top of the thigh and buttock. So just give yourself some movement there as you need to, and then come back to your feet. Breathe. So even though I'm not actually in the room with you, you know, pretend I am. You can hear me, you can see me. So don't forget to breathe. Okay, we're going to bend the other knee. And then we're going to raise that leg up. And again, you can place the foot somewhere along the inside of the leg, maybe towards the top of the thigh, maybe lower down. And then breathe. Toes can be touching the floor if they need to. Then you bring your hands to your heart. And again, come back to this settling through the facial muscles. So coming back to those massaging actions that we did. Maybe you can feel that there's a little echo of how it felt to, you know, really release the jaw. We'll continue that now in your Vrikshasana tree pose. Okay, well done. You can release your hands, you can release your leg, place your foot to the floor. Again, maybe you need to shake it out, have a little bit of movement as you need to. Just come back here to standing, feet in towards each other. Deep breath. So deep means not grasping the breath, but it means sort of gathering the breath from a wider area and allowing it to really deeply infuse your body, and then allowing it to freely release back out into this wider area. Okay, I'd like you to raise your left arm up above your head. Maybe you've got a bit more height than I have here. I've got a ceiling to touch, but I can work with that. So you lift up now. We're going to just place the right hand to the belly. And again, I apologize if this is not mirroring as I thought it would. But just breathe. Feel into that extension through the left side of your body, but also feel into the belly simultaneously. Breathe. Okay, we're going to keep our hand on our belly. We're going to bend at the ankles, knees and hips. So that hand on the belly, you know, is going to just keep the belly in the same alignment that it was in the standing position. So we don't want to overly stick the bum out. If we do that, you'll feel the belly will push into your hand a little more. And likewise, we're not tucking under because you'll feel this contraction coming into the belly. So we want to keep, there is some light tone in the belly, but it's not really a closure as such of the belly. That's it, breathe. Now just take that arm out back behind you. Allow a little turn as you reach back towards the space behind you. Breathe. You may be moving a little here. There might be a little bounce through the body. And then you're going to bring that hand back. You're going to place it on the other hand. And you're going to press into your feet. And you're going to inhale and come up. Let the breath flow. And then when you're ready, you're going to raise up your other arm. Lift, extend, breathe, move into it, play into it. And then again with your hand on your belly, so you can feel as we lift, there can be a light tone here, but we're not looking for that tone that pulls the belly in like this. We're looking for length with tone. Okay, and then we're going to bend again at the ankles, knees and hips. And we can start to sit down. So we're moving in towards this Utkatasana position with just one arm up. And we're breathing. Forehead is soft, jaw is released. Remember, no one can see you. You can let it all hang out. In the face, that is. Keep the body engaged. Okay, so we're going to take that arm up and back. And you can lean into this a little. You can play into this. You can bounce into it. You can breathe into it. And then bring hand back into the belly. Press into your feet. Inhale and come up. Release your arms. Settle your breath. So that's an interesting instruction, and it's an instruction that, I probably use quite frequently. But settling your breath, it's not really an instruction of something for you to do. It's kind of an instruction for you to stop doing. So in other words, to allow the breath to settle itself, because it will. Trust in the breath. It breathes for you 21,600 times a day. So, it knows what to do. Okay. We're going to come into balancing again with our legs. So we're going to bring our legs into a Garudasana position, an eagle pose position. We're not going to bring the arms in. So we're going to bend the knees. Now you can bend your right leg a little more, so you can come up onto the toes, and then as high up the thigh as you can cross the leg. This is useful because if we cross down too low, you've got less leg to play with. If you cross higher, you've got more leg to play with. So you bend into it, you sit into it, and then you bring the foot close into the body, so you snuggle the foot in next to the standing leg. You may perhaps hook the toes if the toes just really neatly and easily hook, but there should be no discomfort in this top knee. So you can keep your foot to the outer side of the standing leg, or you hook in if there's no pressure on the knee. And I want you to be really vigilant on this because you're not in a classroom with me. So no forcing. And there's no one to impress. There's no one else in the room with you. Maybe you're practicing with someone in your family, but you don't have to grasp for that posture. We're going to take our arms out wide. And we're going to breathe. Now we're going to raise the arms up above the head. Now feel a little light tone in the lower belly as you move the arms up. Breathe. And then bring the arms down. it's fairly challenging. I'm finding the challenge of practicing on carpet here with the balance. Okay, and then release the leg, place the foot next to the other one. Again, move around if you need to, a little wiggle of the hips, a little shake out even, you can have a full shake out if you wish. So go with what feels right for you. Release. Come back to allowing the breath to settle itself. Okay, so once the breath has settled itself, I'm going to go to the other side. So a little bend of the knees. Bending your left knee a little more, so you can then, we're going to cross the leg over the other one, and again remember, as high up the thigh of the standing leg you can cross. This will enable you to bring the leg in closer. You bend, you sit down into it, and then maybe you're resting the foot next to the outer shin, or maybe you're hooking the toes. But if you start to hook the toes and feel any pulling action there on the knee, then don't hook the toes. Mostly I will go between hooking and not hooking the toes, because sometimes it does feel like there's just that little tweaky pressure on the knee. So I'll avoid it if I'm feeling that. Take your arms out. Breathe. Raise your arms up. And again, keep breathing. Take your arms down wide and release. And then release the leg. Place the foot next to the other one. Take a nice settling breath. Maybe even 2 or 3 of those, until you feel that you can just drop back in to your center, drop back into your contact with the floor. Drop back into, your body. So one of the things that I kind of find endlessly fascinating about a physical yoga practice is that, we're using the body to, in part, become fully embodied, but in part to transcend the body. And it's not one or the other. As soon as we start saying it's this or that, then we kind of move into the world of dualism, where we have right and wrong, and me and you. And what yoga is teaching is that we bring everything together, that we see everything within this field of interconnection. So it is possible for us to be in the body, to fully embody our body, yet to transcend the body. So we don't get caught up in what we feel in the body. We fully feel it because it's a full sensory experience. But it's okay, we recognize its temporary nature, whatever is there. Okay, so we're going to step our feet wide now. So hands on your hips, take your feet into a wide stride. Now, just check your feet. So your feet are lining up with each other down the midline of the feet. So make sure the toes aren't turning out. They can slightly turn in, is okay. What happens if they turn out is that we get a little compression around this lower back and sacrum area. So we check that the feet aren't turning out. And then we're going to pause here and just feel into, again, the floor, again into our posture, and again into this sense of finding some stability here. So remember, before we found some stability with movement, so we might find stability with a bit of movement. Now, what we might do is place our hands on the hips and perhaps create this little figure of 8 action here. So when we move one hip forwards and then the other hip forwards, we kind of lift the hip and lower the hip. So you're sort of making these 2 little circling actions. And I sort of feel it as a hip coming forwards and then a return back diagonally for the other hip to come forward. So it feels like I'm chasing or tracing rather an infinity symbol with my hips. So just feel into that and let yourself move into it. Enjoy the simplicity of this movement and the full sensory experience of the movement. That we are initiating this movement from the hips, but we can feel a ripple down through the legs. We can feel a ripple down up through the upper body. And that the whole of the body is involved here. Okay, come back to the center. Now this is where you might need perhaps your book, or if you have a yoga block, we're going to fold ourselves forwards. So we're going to make sure, now we felt that movement in the hips, we can feel how free we are to move in the hips, that we are going to turn from our pelvis. So this is really important, that we feel the pelvis hinging forward. So I sometimes, as I'm doing now, take hold of my pelvis to feel that. The feet deepen into the floor. We feel a lift up through the legs. And that feels like it can feed the turn of the pelvis, almost like we've got 2 little cogs here, lowering us down. And then you can come down to your block, your book, to the floor is fine, but be up on your fingertips. Don't rush and grasp for the full forward bend. And again, I remind you that, there's no one observing your practice, so you don't have to try and, beat anyone else at your practice. So this is one of the other, nice things, perhaps, that we are not so self-conscious, perhaps, when we're practicing at home with a video link. So once you've come down wherever you are, whether you're using a block or you have your fingertips to the floor, just play into it so you can let your hips sway back almost to the point that you could fall back on your bum, but not quite to that point, obviously. So you're feeling into that little extension through the back of the legs. You're playing around the edge of feeling that stretch. And then you can move forwards, feeling your weight shift across your feet. Breathing, just enjoying this steady movement. Let it be a meditation. So it's a meditation that wakes up the body. It's a meditation that wakes up our awareness of our center and everything. Okay. So you may continue perhaps folding. If there's more turn in your pelvis, you can bend your knees a little and find a bit more turn that way, because that will free up your hamstrings. And then you can fold and release. And breathe. Maybe your head may be coming down towards the floor, maybe not. Your hands can either stay on the floor. You may, if you folded fairly far forwards, hold your elbows. These are all options that you can take. Okay, well done. Come back to your fingertips if you've folded forwards. A little press. You may need to walk your feet in a little towards each other to get the purchase and to feel more stable. A little press into the feet and lifting yourselves up and then stepping your feet in towards each other. So we're back here in Tadasana together or apart with the feet up to hip width. And then some deep breaths. So deep breaths again, I'll remind you, it's not a get that breath in, it's a steady drawing in of the breath, feeding the breath into all parts of the body and releasing the breath into all parts of the world. Okay, we're going to take ourselves into a wide stride again. So you can bring your hands onto your hips so you feel nice and stable when you step apart with the hands on the hips. And we're in a nice wide stride. And then I'd like you to turn your left toes in, right foot and leg out, front heel lining up with the back instep. And let's just play between the feet here. So we can lift up the toes and the ball of the front foot, taking a little lean back. We can lay the foot back down, lift up the back heel and just move between the two. So you can lift and lower so you're feeling into the ankle. We're allowing that back heel to turn out a little. And what that does is we get a little, if you place your hands on your hips, your body's still facing forwards, you'll notice that your hips aren't exactly square on. I can turn my hips like this, but it creates a little bit of disharmony around the groin area, around the lower back. So just let your hips sit where they want to sit. And then the front foot deepening into the floor. We're going to start to feel up through the leg, almost like we are stroking energy up through the leg. And as that energy is stroked up or rises up through the leg, it continues up through the side of the body. So we're starting to lift, 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 lift. And we're going to take our arms out and we're going to raise the front arm to feel that flow. You know, like you're picking up the flow of a stream. It's continuous, it's flowing. Just trickling up through. It's not, you know, a rushing river, but it's a steady little bubbling brook, we might say. Okay, now we're going to come into Trikonasana, which I'm sure you've guessed that from our position. We're going to allow the pelvis to tilt. So if this is my pelvis, it's going to tilt in that direction. So you're going to let yourself hinge from the pelvis. And then the body simply follows. All I'm doing here is feeling this tilt into the pelvis. And then my body's following. I don't have to make it turn because the pelvis has done that job for me. Then you may bring your hands down somewhere onto the leg, probably for most people somewhere on the shin. And then raise the top arm up. And breathe. Now let's feel an extension in all directions through the body. So you are almost feeling as though you are reaching deep into your center and, you know, you're kind of exploding out from that center, going in all directions. That's it. Breathe. Extend up. Deepen the feet into the floor. Feel that bubbling brook up through both legs. Top head. You may turn your head towards the top hand if that's comfortable in the neck. If not, just look forwards. It will not be comfortable in the neck if you are slightly leaning forwards. So it requires this openness of the chest to find comfort. Okay, we're going to bring the top arm behind us now. So we're staying where we are. we're just going to take the arm behind us. Now, when you take your arm behind you, it may just rest behind you, or you may take hold of the thigh if your arms are long enough. So here we go, demonstrate from the other side. So you may bring your hand around to that thigh, okay? Now, whether your hand's just resting behind your sacrum or taking hold of the thigh, we are going to bend the front knee here. So we're going to bend the knee, we're keeping the hand in place, and then we're going to bring our arm in front of the leg, so the free arm is coming down. You can grab a book or a block to bring your hand to if you need to. And we pause there. Deep breaths. So again, I want you to feel those breaths as you slowly, steadily welcoming them in. Okay, let's press into the front foot, extend through the front leg, lift the body up, release the hand, release your arm, hands onto your hips, turn your feet to the front, steady breath. Forehead soft, jaw release. Of course, you may step your legs back together for a few moments if you need to. Shake it out, move it out, wiggle it out, whatever you need to do. And then when you're ready, you're going to turn your right toes in, heel out, left foot and leg out, front heel lining up with the back instep. And again, we're just going to play between that. So that alignment, it's a starting alignment. It might be that, you know, we need to wiggle around and find what feels right for our own body. So just play into that. That's it, breathe. And then once you feel that place where, again, you can take up that sense of being steady, settled, stable in this moment. We're then going to feel that rising up through the front leg like this little trickling stream coming up, drawing it up through. We can raise up our lead arm. So again, we're going to feel that movement into the pelvis. So we want the pelvis to tilt, to lead us into it. So you can see how much movement I've got here with this wiggle. We're going to utilize that. So, and you've definitely got, if you're someone who can walk, you've got that movement. Okay, so you let the pelvis tilt and extend. Bring the hand down, somewhere onto the leg, breathe. And then the top arm can rise up. So it comes up as an expression of this flow through the body. So you can even pick it up on the bottom arm and then lift and extend. And then again, we find our center here. So, you know, it feels that we are just reaching out in all directions. We are, you know, pervading our energetic or the prana of the body throughout the whole body and beyond. Okay, so that top arm again, we're going to bring it down behind our back, either resting your hand, the back of your hands there against the back of the sacrum. And then maybe bringing the hand around, maybe taking hold of the thigh, breathing. And then we're going to lead this into a bent front leg. So you're going to reach the thigh bone forwards. The body will transition over here. You're going to bring your free hand down towards the floor in front of the foot, and you're going to pause there. You know, don't get stuck whilst you're here. Reach into the back foot, press into the fingertips, lift the chest. Feel free to play into it. Okay, and then we'll come up, so pressing into that front foot, extending through the leg, lifting the body, releasing the arm, turning your feet back to the front, taking a breath, bringing your feet back in towards each other. Again, a little shake out, a little wiggle out, whatever you need to do. Bring one hand onto your heart, one hand onto your belly. Maybe you can feel your breath, maybe you can feel your heartbeat. As you feel those elements of yourself, those parts of your humanness. You feel into what's around you. Maybe you can hear noise from outside. So as you hold your center, as you orientate yourself to your center, we're aware that from the center, we can see right out to the periphery. And the periphery, doesn't really exist in terms of the heart center because it's ever expansive. But just notice here with your hand on your belly and your hand on your heart and perhaps your eyes closed, how it's possible to hold that steadiness that only the heart center can provide amongst the fluctuations that we're surrounded by. Just breathe. Okay. Slowly open your eyes, release your hands, let your arms drop, your forehead is soft, the jaw is released. We're going to bring ourselves down onto our mat now. So I hope you've got a little space. In fact, maybe we'll come down to a seated posture. I was going to do a reclined twist, but I'm not sure what space you guys are working with there. So we're going to come down into a seated twist. Now, for this, I would like you to have something to sit on. So it can be a blanket folded up, a folded up towel, a cushion off your sofa, a book. So, or maybe you do have a yoga block or a yoga brick, either of these. So we're going to place our block, book, towel, cushion, cat. No, don't sit on the cat. Whatever you have to hand underneath our bottom. And then you're going to place your feet over next to your right hip. And you're going to have your the shin of your right leg resting into the arch of your left foot. So I don't know how well you can see from there. I'll turn around so you can see here my left foot, my toes are pointing in this direction, my right toes are pointing towards you. So that's what you're looking for. And you're resting your bum on your block. You can draw your buttock flesh out and back, and you can sit towards the front of your lift, whatever it might be. Let your knees separate so you're not trying to keep them together. You want to have space here. So they naturally generally want to come and rest so they are around hip width apart, but it might be a little different for each of you. And then you can place your right hand. We're going to take the right hand to the top of the right thigh here, and you're just going to sort of wiggle it in, so into the thigh crease. You can feel there with your thumb. Then rest your hand there, bring your left hand on top. And then close your eyes and again find your breath. Now sitting here in this posture, Bharadvajasana, that we're about to move into, what we're looking for is what we're always looking for in a twist, and that is length. So twists are most effective when they come from a place of space between the vertebrae. So finding your breath, and maybe you may use your breath to feel the breath down through the midline and back up. So the midline is placed in front of the spine. What we call the central channel of the subtle body, the Sushumna, the Madhya Nadi, and this central channel, which is where we are looking for energy to move through, prana to move through. It's quite handy in terms of what we want to do physically in the body, because it's directly in front of the spine and we want to feel length through the spine too. So we may perhaps access the central channel of the energy body through working with the physical spine, and we may access the physical spine through working with the energy body. So we find this lift. Now we're going to inhale as we lift up, and as we exhale we're going to take the left arm behind us, and then you can see if you can find your forearm of the right arm, and you can just take hold. That's it. Good. Now try not to push into your lumbar and overly arch into the posture. Breathe. So a little light tone in the belly will prevent this arching. And if you've got long enough arms and the space, you might be able to walk your hand higher up your arm, cross your arm in front of the body, place your hand on your thigh. Breathe. Okay, well done. We'll slowly return ourselves to the center. Place your hands on your thighs. Soften your forehead, release your jaw, relax your shoulders. Enjoy the little peacefulness that comes, that we always have when we return to the center, when we move the body out into a posture and then we return. There's always this little moment of peacefulness that we can tap into. Okay, so we're going to swap our legs over to the other side. So you may need to give your legs a little stretch out. So you can give them a stretch out, a bit of movement, perhaps a little bit of a rub, whatever you need to do. Swap your feet over to the other side. So feet next to your left hip. You can draw your buttock flesh out of that. Sit, don't sit too far back on your lift. You want your thighs to feel that they are free of the lift. Your top foot, which is your left foot, your toe is going to point behind you. Your bottom foot and your right foot, they're going to point over in this direction. Okay, and then you're going to place your left hand there at the top of the left thigh. That's it. You can place your right hand on top. You can pause there, and then this is our moment to again just drop in. Don't think about where we're going. Don't think about where we've been. But just be here now. And then when you're ready, you can start to find this lightness in the torso that comes from the focus on the central channel, that may come from a focus on the physical spine, space between the vertebrae, or a sense of space between the vertebrae. And then when you're ready, you're going to take your right arm behind you. You're going to see if you can find your forearm. So you may need to draw the arm back to catch hold of the forearm. That's it. Pause. Breathe. Enjoy the meditative quality of this posture, named after a sage who was very much known for meditating. And then again, if you have the length in your arms, you may be able to walk that hand that's caught hold of the left arm up the left arm, and then cross the left arm in front of the body towards the other thigh. These are just optional stages. I'd be happy for you to be here at this first stage. Okay, well done. Return to the center. Find your breath. Release your legs. So take a little lean over away from your feet so you can release your legs with ease. And then give the legs some movement as you need to. And it's time for Shavasana. So make sure that you're warm. You may want some support for your head. So when we come into Shavasana, I'm coming in a little closer towards you. When we come into Shavasana, we want our body to be in this position. You can't actually see my feet now. So feet are going to be about hip width apart. The arms come a little away from the body. So we've got a bit of space here in the armpits. And if you're not so comfortable, maybe you're on a laminate flooring and it's cold, and that's making you want to pin your arms in. Don't pin your arms in, but place your hands on your belly, or one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest. So have space. What we're looking for is an openness of the chest, a relaxation of the shoulders. Nice position for the feet, so don't go too wide, because again this closes the back, as I mentioned in another posture before. And then that's it, just breathe. So you're lying down. And as you lay here with your eyes closed, giving yourself completely to the floor. All there is this moment. Your breath, your body, your heart center. Breath coming and going with ease. You don't have to do anything with your breath. breath knows how to support you. It's been doing it all your life. Give yourself fully a moment of calm, of space, of absolute freedom here. A moment of beauty. The beauty of being. Beauty of life and aliveness. Breath just washing in and out like the gentle lap of the tide. The breath, or the prana, the energy of the breath, kissing every cell of your body with its life force. So we almost sparkle with that life force. Take 3 slower breaths. So there's no sense of rush. There's no trying to project ourselves into the future. There is just simply a savouring of those 3 breaths. And then when you've taken those 3 breaths, bend your knees and place your feet to the floor. Allow another breath to come and go here with ease. then you may roll yourselves to lay on your right side and just pause there. Feeling the weight of your body into the floor. Enjoying that space. And then again, when you're ready, you may roll yourselves over onto your other side and pause there. And then from your side, you can begin to come out of your posture, maybe just reaching into the body, perhaps slowly starting to stretch out, maybe bringing a little gentle movement, whatever you need, a little wiggle of the fingers, the toes, a little movement through the head. Bring your hands to the floor, and you may bring yourselves up from your side and come up from your side, come up to a comfortable seated posture. And we're going to close this session by chanting Om 3 times, as we usually do. So you may bring your hands to your heart. We're going to take a deep inhalation now to prepare. Thank you all very much. Namo Vaha, Namaste. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to share with you. I miss seeing your lovely faces here in the room with me, but you're there across the ether. So thank you very much. I hope there's still some of you there. Yeah, let me know how the class was for you. I'd love to have your feedback. And I'm just playing around with my phone here just to end the session. Oh, someone's coming on. Come on.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Gadeen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm glad. Okay.
I'll send you money over later today.
Okay. Thanks, Terry. Okay, well, it's been lovely to have you all here, and yeah, I've sent an email out so you can join other sessions if you wish. You know, this is just how it's going to be for a little bit of time, hopefully not too long, because you know, I'd like to get back into the classroom with you. But yeah, take care, look after yourselves, everyone, and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Where I am. I've gone.